Morning, all. Thank you for coming to our lead session today on the NCAA recruitment process. I see a lot of different sports present with us, so to speak. I see a lot of different ages, from freshmen to seniors here at the high school, which is great. And I appreciate you coming because this is an important conversation. This is an important presentation for many of you. If you're here today, that means that you are interested in continuing your athletic career at a college or university, okay, after high school. And my name is Mr. Lorenzi. I'm one of the counselors here. I know many of you already, but one of the hats that I wear is the NCAA coordinator for Bethel Park. Last year, we had an NCAA eligibility lead session at around this time in the winter, where I solely discussed eligibility to play at the Division I, II, and III level. And in our question and answer period, after I was done talking, I was asked a lot of questions about, well, how do I market myself, right? When do I start the process of marketing myself, reaching out to colleges and universities? When can they start reaching out to me? And so there were a lot of questions that I said I would get answers to. And so what we have here today is a brief discussion about eligibility and a longer discussion about the recruiting process, what a student athlete's life looks like on campus, and a lot of broader questions can be answered today because we have Coach Chris, who is a baseball coach and recruiting coordinator from West Liberty, a Division II school in the area. And he has been kind enough to donate his time to come and talk to you, and I think that's fantastic. And he wants you to be informed, and he wants to answer any questions that you may have. But before we get to Coach Chris, I just want you to take a look at the handouts that you were given here today. The two handouts that you had cover all three levels of NCAA participation. You have Division I, II, and III handouts. On those, on the one, we have what are the academic requirements for Division I participation? What are the academic requirements for Division II participation? And there really are very few differences if you look at the types of classes that you need to take. But one thing you need to know is what classes count towards NCAA eligibility. And the answer to that is all four of your core subjects, your social studies, English, math, and science. Any language counts towards that credit requirement. And also any psychology, sociology class, religion classes also count there, but we do not have those here at Bethel Park. Those are more geared towards, your private schools, your Central Catholics, for kids who go to those schools. So those are the classes that typically count. One important class right now that does not count towards NCAA eligibility is business math. Okay, so if you take business math as one of your core classes, understand that that does not count towards NCAA eligibility. That might be a consideration for you as you move forward. We've tried a couple of different times to get that class approved by the NCAA to no avail. And so if you are in need of a credit for eligibility, business math is not the way to go for you. As you can see here, you need 4 years of English, 3 years of math, which is Algebra 1 or higher, 2 years of science, 1 year of extra, that could be anything, 2 years of social science, and under other, any one of those core classes can count under other as well. For Division II, you see minor differences. in terms of how you get to 16. One difference as well, in Division I, you have to earn a minimum of a 2.3 QPA to be eligible for Division I participation. You can be a part of a Division I team with a 2.0, but you are academic redshirted and you are not able to participate in the first year of games or matches, okay? That's called an academic redshirt when you have a 2.0 but not a 2.3. The academic requirement is at a minimum of a 2.2 for Division II athletics. There is, as far as I know, there is no academic redshirt in that, right? No academic redshirt for Division II schools. Division III schools, if you take a look at that handout, they really set their own requirements. There's a lot more freedom in Division III. Of course, one of the major differences is that in Division III, there is no athletic scholarship money. There's zero athletic scholarship money. Okay, the money that you will get will be in academics and merit scholarships, right, with Division III. On the back of the standards, you see an outline, grades 9 through 12, of what you should be looking at doing. Once you're in 9th grade, you should be creating a profile page in the Eligibility Center, at the very least. You can go in and do what it requests you do in grade 11 and grade 9, that's fine. But at the bare minimum, you want to get into that Eligibility Center with a profile page as early as you can. So that's just a little bit about eligibility. Do we have any questions on that piece right now? Eligibility. If you do have questions, more than welcome to ask them after Coach Chris is done talking to you about the recruiting process. But again, without further ado, I'm going to get him to talk to you guys about that. Coach Chris from West Liberty.
As I'm going through here, like at the end, I'll obviously open it up for questions, but as I'm talking, just kind of like you're in class, if you have a question about something I'm talking about and it's in your head, raise your hand, I'll answer it in the moment, you know what I mean? Just like a little bit about myself, obviously I'm a baseball coach at West Liberty University. We're down in Wheeling. We play in the same region as the PSAC. So here in Pennsylvania, all the Division II schools are the PSAC. And then we're all the Division II schools in West Virginia, with the exception of Frostburg, that's in Maryland, and Point Park actually just joined our conference this year as well. One of the things that, you know, everyone in this room is really lucky about is, in terms of Division II athletics, D1, you can kind of go anywhere in the country, any region in the country, and find good competition. If you're at that level, you're going to find a school, you're going to find a location that kind of matches with both your ability and your preferences. But, you know, the next level down at D2, it's not elite everywhere. And the PSAC and the MEC, that's our conference, the Mountain East, make up the Atlantic region, and there's nowhere in the country where there's better Division II athletics than, you know, right here in your backyard. You know what I mean? So no matter what type of athlete you are, the type of athletic programs that the PSAC and the MEC have are, you know, elite. You can go to Florida and not find better athletic programs. You can go to California and not find better athletic programs. So in that sense, everybody in this room is really lucky, right? A little bit about myself outside of coaching at West Lib. You know, I've been training baseball players in the area for the last 15 years. You know, I've coached major leaguers, Ian Happ, I mean, even Bethel Park, going back 10 years. Justin Mice, Magdiel Cotto, Chalice, Holowinski. I don't see him here, but I'm working with Mikey Bruckner now. But so I can kind of give you a perspective from both the side of a trainer, which I'm sure a lot of you work with, you know, a private coach, a high school coach, that kind of thing. But I also have the perspective of a college coach. What am I looking for? You know what I mean? It's important to remember that the eligibility stuff, right? That's kind of minimum requirements. Like, what's the minimum GPA you need to get into this school? What's the minimum GPA that you need to be on the field, right? But if you're sitting in this room, you aspire to be a college athlete, and part of that is understanding that if you're doing anything at the minimum requirement, you're probably not going to be successful in a competitive environment, right? And one of the things that I talk to guys that I recruit about a lot is the fact that there's so much money that you can earn in academic scholarships that's just not going to be available in the form of an athletic scholarship, right? Different sports are doing different things at D1, but just to use baseball as an example, they're starting to move to a 34-man roster with a full scholarship for every one of those roster positions, right? So in the very near future, most fully funded D1 schools will have 34 players and 34 scholarships, right? But that's a luxury, and it's also a very small roster, right? So coming out of high school, it's getting harder to go to Division I schools because of the transfer portal. There's people that are already playing college sports that can transfer to those D1 schools, and the roster sizes are getting smaller, right? So more and more athletes are using Division II schools or junior colleges as a stepping stone to be able to eventually get to the top level if that's their aspiration, right? But again, you can have a outstanding career at a Division II school, and you can move to a professional level from a Division II school. We had a guy drafted last year. You know, all the schools in our conference usually have a guy drafted every year, once every other year, right? But the important thing to remember is that the athletic money available for athletes at Division II and at junior colleges is a fraction of what's available to Division I schools. At fully funded Division II baseball programs have 9 full scholarships, right? And roster sizes vary. Some schools, like Point Park, for instance, has 75 players in their program, right? We have 40. It's a decision you make as a program, but the point is you're splitting up 9 scholarships amongst a few dozen players, right? So a lot of times you will open up options for yourself if your academics are good enough to qualify for academic scholarships, because you might get, you know, a $5,000 athletic offer from 3 different schools, but you really want to go to this one, but it's going to cost your family twice or 3 times as much as another school, right? So now you're making a decision purely based on finances instead of making the decision that you really want to make, right? If you're spending this time in high school creating the habits and, you know, creating the mentality of taking care of what you need to take care of in the classroom, not only are you going to open up your options in the future, the jump from high school academics to college academics is going to get a lot easier. When I take players on tours, you know, I always tell them the jump isn't what you're studying. You're not going to sit in your first college class and be like, I don't understand anything this professor's saying. You know, this information is way too complicated. It's not that. It's that you are more responsible for the results that you basically create. In high school, your teachers feel some responsibility for the grade that you get. You know, if they see you struggling, they'll step in and try to help you. Or, you know, there's academic support systems in your high schools, right? When you get to college, you'll sit down on day one of class. The professor will give you the syllabus for the entire semester. On that syllabus will be everything you're going to cover, the test dates. Here you go. It's up to you, right? So if right now you're creating the habits of, you know, being able to manage this stuff with your sports schedules, being able to manage this stuff with your social lives in a way that not only keeps you eligible, but keeps you productive, you're only helping yourself and you're only helping your families in terms of financial responsibility when you go to school. You know what I mean? In terms of what I look for in a high school athlete, one, I think I kind of hinted at it there a little bit, but college coaches love it when the student athlete is the one taking charge. You know what I mean? I love meeting parents, and I love having a great relationship with all of my players' parents. I would be very happy if the only time I have a conversation with them is after a game to say, hey, how you're doing? Your son's doing great. Or at our, you know, preseason kickoff dinner in 2 weeks when we're celebrating a new season, right? Taking these things under your umbrella of responsibility is huge. I don't want, you know, a parent to talk to me about getting online and doing an application for college, or going to the NCAA eligibility center and getting an NCAA ID number, or, you know, what their kid needs to do to develop, right? When the student athlete themselves is the one contacting me, asking me questions, taking charge, sending me their high school schedule, right? Now I know when that person becomes a college athlete, they're going to be responsible. You know what I mean? Our jobs rely on 18 to, well, heck, now in college sports, all the way up to like 25-year-olds, right? So we want to coach the sport that we coach. We want to develop our athletes. We want to compete at the highest level. What we don't want to do is be a manager when people get in trouble. We don't want to have to worry about if one of our players is going to be eligible to be on the field. You know what I mean? We don't want to have to stand out front of a classroom building and take attendance as our guys walk in and out of class, right? That's the kind of thing that you as an athlete need to be responsible for, and quite frankly, when you get to college, it's part of learning to be an adult. You know what I mean? So you don't need to necessarily be the most mature person in the world when you're 18 years old, but what you do need to start building are the habits that allow you to solve your own problems and to be responsible for the things you need to take care of. You know what I mean? The college life. All right, so let's talk about the life of an athlete, right? When I was in high school, obviously I played sports, you know, probably a lot like your schedule. You probably have something going on every day of the week. You know what I mean? If you don't have practice after school, maybe you're going to a lesson, whatever. Activities, academics, social life. It's a balance. Our guys, I can use our players as an example. So when they get to school in the fall, we have a full fall schedule of practice and games, right? So if you were a college baseball player playing for me, you would wake up in the morning and have breakfast and probably have your first class around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. You would probably be done with class around 11 or 12 in the afternoon. that sounds fantastic, right, from an academic schedule standpoint. But right after class, you'll go to the cafeteria and eat lunch. Right after lunch, you'll go to the weight room for a team lift. Right after team lift, you'll change. You'll come up to the baseball field for practice from 3:30 to 6 or so, right? After baseball practice, now you're on your own, right? How do I manage what I'm doing? I need to have a social life. I need to take care of my academics, right? That's your window of time. From the moment you wake up until 6 or 7 p.m., all gas, no brakes. You know what I mean? You have to get to class. You have to manage your eating, your calories, your development. You have to get bigger and stronger. You have to practice with your team, right? In every sport, there's an off season, a dead period. For baseball, it's in the middle of the winter. So after November, once we go into like December and January, now we are only allowed to require our players to do 8 hours a week of organized team activities, right? But again, we're competitors. We can't, even though you might only see me for 8 hours a week, that doesn't mean you're only doing 8 hours a week of work, right? So now we're setting up our schedule where our players have times in the weight room, but they're going to lift on their own so that we don't waste lifting time for our 8 hours of practice time, right? So again, this is where having responsible athletes is very attractive to college coaches, because your dead period is usually the period right before you start your competition season. And if everybody is putting on the brakes right before competition season, it's really hard to get out of the gates when game one starts, right? So we create culture and we create habits in the fall, and then our athletes are responsible for carrying that over in the winter, especially when they go home for winter break, right? As soon as second semester starts, we are 21 days out from our first game. So we're, again, full-time. That schedule I told you about that our guys have in the fall, that's what they're doing right now. It's go time from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m., and then they need to manage what they need to manage after that, right? In terms of like having a college life, I was a college athlete, and to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't feel like I ever missed out on anything, right? We give our guys the weekends off in the fall, and our team has all kinds of guys. There's some guys that like going hunting and fishing. There's some guys that like going home to football games at home. There's some guys that like hanging out together on campus. Whatever, it's important that we give our players the opportunity to have that kind of social life balance. But again, it's always a balance, you know what I mean? It's like, if you want to be a college athlete, it's important to always remember that you're a student first, you're an athlete second, and then you're kind of a college socialite third, right? But the benefit of having college athletics is that you kind of have a built-in fraternity and sorority, right? Our team's really close. They have other friends, other student body friends on campus, but for the most part, it's a family, you know what I mean? So the social side of things takes care of itself a little bit, which is nice because you have to put in so much work in terms of the academics and the athletics to begin with. You know what I mean? There's one other thing I know I wanted to talk about. Oh, all right. In terms of how you want to market yourself, how about this? Before I move on to like marketing yourself, right? That was kind of the day in the life of a college baseball player for us, right? do you have any questions about college life, about, you know, anything in terms of that, like what it might be like to be a college athlete, before I just kind of move on to the recruiting process and how to market yourself and how to choose a school? All right, if you think of anything at the end, feel free. Yeah, go ahead.
It might apply to some of these. So like when you meet with your advisor to schedule your classes,
Mhm.
as an athlete, will they work with you to make sure that, like if you have practice at 2 p.m., they would try their best to maybe not have a class at 2 p.m. to have that conflict?
Correct, and you know, that's kind of going to snap right into my piece about the recruiting process and how to market yourself and how to choose, because we're lucky to have an academic support person, right? So at the end of every semester, when our guys are scheduling classes for the next semester, they go, she likes being called Miss Peggy. So they go see Miss Peggy, and she can answer questions like, Miss Peggy, I have to take this class, Business 101, whatever it is. And there's 2 professors teaching this class. Which professor am I going to get along with better? She can kind of give you a little insider trading info on which professor people tend to prefer. 2, she also helps you with scheduling at the right times, like Coach said, right? You have a practice schedule, you have a game schedule, you have lifting schedules, like you are required to be somewhere most times of the day. It's easy to get your class schedule snapped into that. And 3, if you're struggling early, if you are having some academic trouble, she's there to set you up with a tutor on this day at this time as it relates to your athletic schedule, right? So that's one of the questions that you should be asking coaches when you go visit schools are, what type of academic support do you have, right? Do you require study halls? You know, what's your team GPA? You know what I mean? Because these are the types of questions that give you an idea of how much support you're going to have on the academic side, or if you're going to just kind of be tossed out into the wilderness to fend for yourself a little bit, right? How to market yourself. There's never, ever going to be a shortage of, you know, showcases, recruiting services, whatever, everything under the sun. There will never be a shortage of people trying to sell you the idea that they can get you an offer or a scholarship or an opportunity at a school. But it is of the utmost importance to remember that you yourself are the salesperson. You yourself have everything to do with whether or not a school sees you and a school is interested with you and a school signs you, because people make it too complicated. I'm about to go to my office right after I'm done talking to you, and I will sit down and I will have 250 emails from recruiting services. I promise you, I do not have time to even read one of those. You know what I mean? And it's like players from Texas, players from Louisiana, players from Montana, right? It's useless. What I look for are published numbers. If you go to one showcase a year and you show progression and those numbers get published publicly, that's what you need. Outside of that, go to college camps. The best way to figure out what you want and to figure out where you will fit in is to target schools and go to their camps, right? Go to 1 or 2 Division I camps. Go to 1 or 2 Division II camps. Go to 1 or 2 Division III camps. After that, you will know what different schools look like. You will know what different programs look like. You will know what the talent level at all those different levels look like, right? You're also creating a direct relationship with those coaches. You know what I mean? I don't recruit anybody I don't know, because I need to know if they're responsible. I need to know if, they're a good team person. They have good values outside of the fact I need to know they have good baseball skills. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's kind of what I was hitting at before about how lucky everyone is to have such outstanding Division II programs surrounding your backyard. You know what I mean? Like, if you go visit Slippery Rock and you're like, you know what? Love the talent level, love the program, but I'm just not a rural campus person, all right? Point Park's right there. You know what I mean? Way more urban. So you have two outstanding programs in two completely different environments. You know what I mean? You do not need to travel all over the country. You do not need to pay for a million different recruiting services. What you need to do is just make yourself an attractive athlete and then start contacting schools directly. I will read an email if it comes from you. I will not read an email if it comes from a recruiting service, right? If somebody emails me and says, hey coach, I've been doing a little research on your school. I would love to find out more about your program. When do you guys have camps? I will get back to that person right away. You know what I mean? So don't let anybody do it for you. I think that's probably my biggest message of the day. Don't let anybody do it for you. Don't rely on anybody to do it for you. If you're taking care of your academics, if you yourself are thinking about what's important to you, what's important to me academically, what's important to me athletically, right? You will find the school that fits what you want. You can't go to a place because you like the school but are iffy on the athletic program. You can't go to a place because you love the athletic program but you're iffy on the school. I promise you, you will not be happy there. You know what I mean? So the more that you kind of digest this stuff and the more that you think about this stuff now, the less you're going to feel like you need to jump around in the future, and the more you're going to feel like you find a home. You know what I mean? You don't have to know everything right now. You just have to start thinking about it. You know what I mean? Do you like big classes? Do you like small classes? Do you like rural settings? Do you like urban settings? How big of a student body do you want? How small of a student body do you want? What level of athletics are you going to fit into? You know what I mean? Trust me when I say nobody on our team on a daily basis, is unhappy because they wish they were standing on a D1 campus right then. They're just worried about having the best career they possibly can, and quite frankly, a lot of times we send guys up a level. You know what I mean? So where you start doesn't need to be where you finish, but along the way, you need to find the right fit. If it is your dream, your absolute dream to make it to a D1 school, but when you're 18 years old, you have 0 offers, if you go to a Division II school or a junior college that you're not happy at, you're not going to develop in the way you need to try to make the jump anyways. You know what I mean? So the more you kind of think about what you're looking for now, the easier it's going to be when you start visiting schools, the more money you're going to save on things that are just basically running on a hamster wheel and not accomplishing anything. You know what I mean? Does anybody have any questions about any of that stuff? Like you can even ask me a specific question, right? Nothing? You good? All right. I'm going to give, again, I don't mind doing this stuff. I've been working my entire life right here in this area with athletes, right? So I'm here on my own time, not necessarily selling West Lib. There might be somebody in here that I recruit in the future, but I want to see the athletes in this area, in the WPIAL, get opportunities, because this is a hotbed in terms of athletic talent, in terms of the quality of athletic programs. I was just talking to Coach about how excellent of a high school baseball program he runs and how much I respect it. You know what I mean? So I'll give everybody here, before you leave, grab one of my cards. It has my cell phone number on it. If you think of a question, it doesn't have to be about West Lib. It doesn't have to be about baseball. If you have a question, if you need help on something, please feel free to text me. I will get back to you. I'm happy to help any dedicated athlete that is looking for assistance in getting to the next level. All right? Thanks for having me.
Coach Chris was a part, he didn't want to toot his own horn too much, I don't think, but Coach Chris was a part of a Mount Lebanon team that used to be in our section, Bethel Park, and we played them a couple times in our senior year. Things didn't go well for Bethel Park in those games, but actually Chris went on to throw the first ever no-hitter at PNC Park in the WPIAL championship game, which was a pretty unique accomplishment. So there you go. It's a long time ago for us now, but so anyway, that concludes, and take advantage of Coach Chris's offer. Come on up if you want and grab one of his cards. Like he said, any question.